Hi guys. Today I'm reading chapter 27, The Gospel of Revolution. Apart from the Rosicrucians already mentioned, we see the foundation and growth of such societies as 1. The strict observance of the Bärenhund and the notorious Jew Leucht, who had assumed the name of Johnson, and several other aliases. It recruited its members in the lodges and went from occultism into political intrigue, later even formulating a plan of economic and financial rule. The Martinists, which founded by a Portuguese Marano Jew, Martinez de Pasquale, united political intrigues fomented for the overthrow of the monarchy, together with magical practices. It numbered among its members the chief politicians who prepared the French Revolution. These were Savalet de Lang, William Law, and Mirabeau. The Scottish Rite, number 3. Number 4, the Moravian Brothers. Number 5, the Alta Vendita. Number 6, the Egyptian Rites of Cagliostro, Mizraim. The adepts of all these different rites knew but little beyond the fact that they had shaken off the yoke of Christian principles, which were replaced by the cult of nature, and in almost all cases licentiousness. They were but mere puppets manipulated by unseen men, whose sinister aims were the destruction of Christianity and disruption of states, and to whom all the above-named orders or organizations were but so many recruiting grounds. It was only when each and all had gathered sufficient strength that the invisible masters attempted to unite them under one supreme sway, namely that of Illuminism at the convent of Williamsbad in 1782. Illuminism represented the efforts of the heads of the powerful Jewish Kahal, which has ever striven for the attainment of political finance, economic morale, and world dominion. Oh, let me interrupt 1 second here. It actually does say Kahal with an H and not Cabal, which we are usually used to it. So I'm just going to say it like it's written here. Okay, that was just a little disruption. The movement had been founded in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt. Bernard Lazare, himself a Jew, has written that there were Jews behind Weishaupt, and upon a close study of Illuminism, we find that the destructive forces which culminated in the French Revolution were of 3 kinds: financial, intellectual, and anti-Christian. In the first class, we come upon the names of Jewish financiers such as Daniel Inzig, Friedländer, Serfber Benjamin and Abraham Goldsmith, Moses Mokata, Feitel Heine Ephraim. In the second category, we find Moses Mendelssohn, Naphtali Wessely, Moses Hersheim, who are the inspirers of Lessing, Frederick Nicolai Weishaupt, Mirabeau, Lepp, Gregoire, the Duke of Brunswick, Wolfenbüttel, and Anacharsis Clotes. Lastly, the third class is composed mostly of the group known as the Encyclopedists: D'Alembert, Diderot, Rousseau, Voltaire, and all of the Kabbalists practiced magic, and among whom we find Martinez de Pasquale, Leucht, the enigmatic Count Saint-Germain, Falke, and Joseph Balsamo, surnamed Cagliostro. The objects of this powerful organization of the Bavarian Illuminati were 1. The destruction of Christianity and of all the monarchical governments; 2. The destruction of nations such in favor of universal internationalism; 3. The discouragement of patriotic and loyal effort, branded as narrow-minded prejudice, incompatible with the tenets of goodwill to all men and the cry of universal brotherhood; 4. The abolition of family ties and of marriage by means of systematic corruption; 5. The suppression of the rights of inheritance and property. Moses Mendelssohn himself, the head of the Haskalah Jewish Illuminati, cooperated with the Bavarian Illuminati of Weishaupt and with the prominent members of the other revolutionary secret societies aspiring to political power. But in 1784, the Elector of Bavaria made an abortive effort to stamp out the conspiracy, which, being international, was necessarily impervious to local measures. The poison of subversion was working in France, where on January 21st, 1793, it culminated in the death of the scaffold of Louis XVI, an event that in Masonic jargon is known as the Second Cannon Shot. The capture of Rome by Cadorna in 1870 was the third. As a further confirmation of concerted Masonic action, let us bring yet another illustration. In the first days of the French Revolution, in 1848, 300 Freemasons, with their banners flying over brethren of every rite representing French Freemasonry, marched to the Hôtel de Ville and there offered their banner, the Provisional Government of the Republic, proclaiming aloud the part that they had just taken in the glorious revolution. Monsieur de Lamartine made them this answer, which was received with enthusiasm by the Freemasonry lodges. It is from the depths of your lodges that the ideas have emanated, first in the dark, then in the twilight, and now in the full light of the day, which have laid the foundations of the revolutions of 1789, 1830, and 1849. 14 days later, a new deputation of the Grand Orient, adorned with their Masonic scarves and jewels, repaired to the Hôtel de Ville. They were received by a Crémieux, a Garnier page, attended by pages who also wore their Masonic emblems. The representative of the Grand Master spoke thus: French Freemasonry cannot contain her universal burst of sympathy with the great social and national movement which has just been effected. The Freemasons hail with joy the triumph of their principles and boast of being able to say that the whole country has received through you a Masonic consecration. 40,000 Freemasons in 500 lodges, forming but one heart and one soul, assure you here of their support happily to lead to the end of the work of regeneration so gloriously begun. Brother Crémois, a Jewish brother, member of the Provisional Government, replied, Citizens and brothers of the Grand Orient, the Provisional Government accepts with pleasure your useful and complete adhesion. The Republic exists in Freemasonry. If the Republic do as the Freemasons have done, it will become the glowing pledge of union with all men in all parts of the globe and on all sides of our triangle. If the wielding of power and their national political, economic, and financial strength over the peoples by a few hidden hands can result in such calamitous upheavals as the French Revolution, the War of 1914 and the Russian Revolution of 1917, were it not wise to apply the lesson of experience to ascertain whether the supposed harmless masonry of today does not again serve as a screen or curtain behind which thrive secret societies no less subversive, revolutionary and demoralizing than those which we have just so briefly sketched? We know that most of them, such as the Martinists, the Illuminatis, the Scottish Rite, and the Egyptian lodges of Memphis and Mizraim, still exist today. So, on what grounds can we base our assumption of a change of their revolutionary and anti-Christian principles? In the face of the late events, namely the Peace Conference, the creation of the League of Nations, the amalgamation of the international resources, the confiscatory inheritance taxes, the development of international finance, the proposed establishment of an international non-Christian cult, we have the right to refrain from lifting the veil of Masonry behind which subversive movements are so conveniently hidden. Have we the right? Oh, sorry. We do have the right, in my opinion. Okay, I'll go on. Oh, that was the end of that chapter. I will go ahead and read chapter 28. The preparation. This chapter is compiled largely of extracts, some transcribed verbatim and others elaborated to include information necessary to the reader from The History of Freemasonry and Concordant Orders, Adriano Lemmi. It is necessary to give a brief review of the history of ancient and accepted Scottish rites. This society originates from the rite called Scottish of Perfection, or Heirdom, in 25 degrees, worked in the 18th century in Europe by Masons devoting themselves to occultism. The following statement with regard to the introduction of this rite in America is made in a report by Albert Pike. We can soon learn how it was that the council degrees came about 1776 from France and not from Prussia. In 1761, the lodges and councils of the superior degrees being extended throughout Europe, Frederick II, which is Frederick the Great, King of Prussia, as Grand Commander of the Order of Princes of the Royal Secret, or 32 degrees, was by general consent acknowledged and recognized as sovereign and supreme head of the Scotch Rite. On the 25th of October, 1762, the Grand Masonic Constitutions were finally ratified in Berlin and proclaimed for the government of all Masonic bodies working in the Scotch Rite over the two hemispheres, and in the same year they were transmitted to the Jew Stephen Morin, who had been appointed at the request of Lecorne in August 1761 Inspector General for the New World by the Grand Consistory of the Princes of the Royal Secret, convened at Paris under the presidency of Chalon de Genval, representative of Frederick the Great, and substitute general of the order. It will be remembered that the 33rd degree was not then created, and under Frederick the Great there was no rank higher than the 32nd degree, nor anybody superior to the consistory. Oh, the footnote. I'm going to go ahead and leave the footnotes out. Morin went to Santo Domingo, where he was joined by Moss M. Hayes and Henry Andrew Franken. The latter founded a branch of the Rite in Jamaica, while the former was entrusted the task of founding lodges in North America. The Jew Hayes established Sublime Lodge of Perfection in Boston, of which he constituted himself Grand Master and charged one of his co-religions and brother Mason, Isaac de Costa, who in 1758 had founded the St. Andrew Lodge in Boston, with the mission of introducing Masonry into South Carolina. Though on August 27th in 1766, Brother Morin's patent was revoked by the Grand Body in Paris for propagating strange and monstrous doctrines, exercising bad faith, etc., etc. One moment, please. This was then given to Brother Martin. Morin continued constituting chapters and councils, and with Sovereign Grand Inspector General, the 33rd and ultimate degree of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. It is not known when or where this grade originated. The theory which describes it to the King of Prussia has long since been discarded by intelligent Masons. The number of inspectors in a kingdom or republic must not exceed 9. These, organized in a body, constitute the Supreme Council, which claims jurisdiction over all the ineffable and sublime degrees. The presiding officer is styled Sovereign Grand Commander. See also Blanchard 33, Scottish Rite Masonry. And though made within the memory of men now living, we read in the same note by McCoy, it is not certainly known when or where this degree originated. That is to say, its origin is concealed. This is the most infamous Masonic act, next to burning their records of 59 years before war, American Civil War, to hide treason. But slavery then ruled the country, and this 33rd Charleston degree ruled. Excuse me. Let me read that over again after I take a drink. I'm sorry. Oh, my throat. Okay, I'm going to start this one over. This is the most infamous Masonic act, next to burning their records of 59 years before the war, which was the American Civil War, to hide treason. But slavery then ruled the country, and this 33rd Charleston degree ruled the lodge, and the Southern Lodge rooms worked up the most unjustifiable and infamous war on record. The Southern people were dragooned into it by leaders secretly sworn to obey Masonic leaders or have their throats cut. Jocasta in 1783, 17 years after his patent had been annulled, he erected in Charleston the Grand Lodge of Perfection. Jocasta was its Grand Master. Joseph M. Myers was his eventual successor, and when the Grand Council of Princes of Jerusalem was established in Charleston, February 20th, 1788, he, as one of the deputy inspectors who established it, deposited in the archives certified copies of the degree of royal and select masters from the guidance and government of that new body. The two Masonic powers of Boston and Charleston created numerous lodges and inner shrines in the United States and gave themselves the title of Mother Lodges of the United States. In view of the historical fact that the American War of Independence broke out in 1773, it is interesting to find that the Lodge of Perfection at Albany, New York, was directed as early as 1770 to transmit reports to Berlin. This indeed becomes significant when considered with the circumstances surrounding the Boston Tea Party, which are so ably described in history. Which are so ably described in the history of Freemasonry and concordant orders by Stillson and Hugin, that we take the liberty of here transcribing some lines from this remarkable publication. Grand Master Joseph Warren was appointed on March 3rd, 1772, by the Grand Master of Scotland, Grand Master of Masons for the continent of America. The tradition says that the Mohawks, the High Sons of Liberty, met at the lodge at the Green Dragon Tavern, which was denounced by the Tories as a nest of traitors. General Joseph Warren and other leading Masons made it the headquarters of the Revolution. On November 30th, 1773, the Lodge of St. Andrews, that founded by Jocasta and of which Warren was a member, was closed without the transaction of any business, in consequence of the fewness of the brethren present, and the consignees of tea having broken up the brethren's nerve. On the 16th of December following, it is said the line of march was taken from the lodge room to destroy the tea on the then arriving ships. On April 8, 1776, the Grand Lodge was convened for the performance of a sad and solemn duty, that of attending the funeral of Grand Master Warren, who was killed at Bunker Hill. In 1738, Pope Clement XII had excommunicated the Freemasons. We extract the following instructive points from Adriano Lemmi by Margiotta. Sovereign Princes of Jerusalem was the title borne by the deputies of the Grand Master when they received missions to found lodges and visit regions where they had high jurisdiction. The name was that of a function and not a degree of initiation, and there was one deputy only for each region. On May 15, 1781, at a convention of deputy inspectors convoked by Hayes and Myers at Philadelphia, Moses Cohen was named Deputy Inspector of Jamaica, as Franken, originally appointed by Stephen Morin to found lodges there, had neglected his mandate. Soon another Jewish Freemason came to Jamaica. This was Hyman Isaac Long, who derived his powers from Morin through Franken Hayes Spitzer and Moses Cohen, and who was to play a great role in the sect. The Convention of Philadelphia had decided that in the future there might be several sovereign princes of Jerusalem per region. By virtue of this decision, Moses Cohen conferred this title on Isaac Long, who, finding his sphere of action too restricted at Jamaica, soon went to Charleston. He was an active man who had formed great plans. Not only did he create other lodges, but he brought other rights, such as that of Royal Arch, under the obedience of the Mother Lodge at Charleston. The Mother Lodge at Boston, however, did not prosper. Nevertheless, when one thinks of the immense territory of the United States, one understands that the lodges at the start could only be very few and far between, so Masonry vegetated for a long time in North America. 1795, Isaac Long went to Europe, leaving Colonel John Mitchell the direction of the Mother Lodge of Charleston. When he returned to the United States 6 years later, he brought the plan of his great idea, which was the creation of a rite of 33 degrees destined to become universal. With Colonel John Mitchell, Dr. Frederick Dalcho, Abraham Alexander, Isaac Auld, and Emmanuel de la Mata, all sovereign princes of Jerusalem, he constituted this rite, taking 25 degrees of the system of heirdom, 6 Templar grades in which were merged 4 degrees borrowed from the German Illuminism of Adam Weishaupt, and 2 grades called grades of administration, the last of which supplanted the function of deputy inspector, sovereign prince of Jerusalem. It took the title of Sovereign Grand Inspector General, 33rd and last degree. This was his crowning achievement. Isaac Long gave the institution the name of Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rites, and the first great constitutions were signed at Charleston on May 31st, 1801. It was Isaac Long who created de Grasse and his father-in-law, de la Hogue, Deputy Grand Inspectors General. In order to ensure great popularity for the rite, he linked it directly with the Templars by a mysterious legend. The high grades of other rites had already thought of pretending the high grades of other rites had already thought of pretending to avenge the Templars, condemned in the Middle Ages by the papacy and the monarchy. In the ceremonial of certain initiations, a pretext was thus contrived for swearing hatred and death to royalty and the church. But Isaac Long had found better than that. According to the tradition, the Knights Templar, convicted of secret conspiracy and malfeasant occultism, had taken refuge in Scotland, where they succeeded in eluding their pursuers. It was said that they had succeeded in buying the head of the Grand Master Jacques Bourguignon de Molay from the executioner after it had been severed from the body, and that they contrived to place in safety the monstrous idol called Baphomet, which they worshipped in their secret assemblies. When Long arrived in Charleston in 1801, he brought with him this Baphomet, which he claimed to have recovered, as well as a skull which he had declared to be that of the Grand Master Molay. They were signal relics, holy things. Long affirmed that he had been assured by the good God in person that victory over the church was contingent and on these precious relics, and that the Templar Baphomet was the palladium which would lead Freemasonry to victory. To this, other authors have added that the skull is known as the relic of Saint Jacques and is placed upon a high pedestal in the hall of the Supreme Council of Scottish Rites in the Temple of Charleston, where annually on the 11th of March it talks and vomits flames. Its conversational propensities were, however, not revealed until Gelatine Mackay, who claimed to be the reincarnation of Jacques de Molay, developed the proclivity for going into an annual trance on the 11th of March. This trance lasted about 1 hour, during which the skull conversed volubly about itself and all sorts of other things. Oh boy. Pursuing the oh boy wasn't part of the text. Sorry. Pursuing the subject further, Maggiata states that the Mother Lodge of Boston had ceased functioning for some years, but that of Charleston, reconstituted according to the new Scottish system in 33 degrees, became the root of the tree which was to spread its branches over the entire world. The superior lodge of the Grand Sovereign Inspectors General in each country was to be called the Supreme Council, and it is from the Supreme Council of Charleston that all the others were to emanate. It is thus the first Supreme Council of the globe. Such is the history of the origin of this rite, which attracted Mazzini's attention, for during the years which preceded the taking of Rome by the army of Piedmont, he could see that the provisions of Isaac Long had been realized. So it was in Pike, the successor of Long, himself the sovereign commander Grand Master, that the great revolutionary conspirator sought an ally in his work, the object of which was the total destruction of the Church. The following address, issued from Paris by Giuseppe Mazzini to his friends in Italy, October 1846, fully sets forth the deep-laid plans by which Freemasonry sought to engage all classes. In great countries, it is by people we must go to regeneration. In yours, by the princes. We must absolutely make them of our side. It is easy. The Pope will march in reform through principle and of necessity, the King of Piedmont through the idea of the crown of Italy, the Grand Duke of Tuscany through inclination and irritation, the King of Naples through force, and the little princes will have to think of other things besides reform. The people yet in servitude can only sing its wants, profit by the least concession to assemble the masses, were it only to testify gratitude. Fetes, songs, assemblies, numerous relations established among men of all opinions, suffice to make ideas gush out, to give the people a feeling of its strength and render it exacting. Italy is still what France was before the Revolution. She wants, then, Mirabeau, Lafayette, and others. A great lord may be held back by his material interests, but he may be taken by vanity. Leave in the chief place whilst he will go with you. There are few who would go to the end. The essential thing is that the goal of the great revolution be unknown to them. Let us never permit them to see more than the first step. In Italy, the clergy are rich in money and the faith of the people. You must manage them in both those interests, and as much as possible make their influence of use. Learned discussions are neither necessary nor opportune. There are regenerative words which contain all of that need to be often repeated to the people. Liberty, rights of man, progress, equality, fraternity are what the people will understand above all when opposed to the words despotism, privileges, tyranny, etc., etc. Nearly 2,000 years ago, a great philosopher called Christ preached the fraternity which the world yet seeks. Accept, then, all the help offered you. Whoever will make one step towards you must be yours till he quits you. A king gives a more liberal law. Applaud him, and ask for the one that must follow. A minister shows intention of progress. Give him out as a model. A lord affects to pout at his privileges. Put yourself under his direction. If he will stop, you will have time to let him go. He will remain isolated and without strength against you, and you will have 1,000 ways to make unpopular all those who oppose your projects. All personal discontent, all deceptions, all bruised ambition may serve the cause of progress by giving them a new direction. The army is the greatest enemy to the progress of socialism. It must be paralyzed by the education of the people. Clerical power is personified in the Jesuits. The odium of that name is already a power for the socialists. Make use of it. Associate, associate. Everything is in that word. The secret societies give irresistible strength to the party that can call upon them. Do not fear to see them split. The more the better. All go to the same end by different ways. The secret will often be violated. So much the better. The secret is necessary to give security to the members, but a certain transparency is needed to inspire fire to the stationary. Courage, then, and persevere. That Freemasonry has not always enjoyed immunity, the following quotation will serve to show. In the year 1735, the States General of Holland proscribed the secret Masonic League, and the French government imitated the example in 1735. In 1757, in Scotland, the Synod of Stirling adopted a resolution debarring all adhering Freemasons from the ordinances of religion. The Great Council of Bern proscribed Freemasonry in 1748. Bavaria followed in 1799, and its total suppression took place in 1845. The Regency of Milan and the Governor of Venice acted in a similar manner by it in 1814. John VI, King of Portugal, prohibited Freemasonry in the strictest manner in 1816 and renewed it in 1824. In 1820, several lodges were closed in Prussia for political intrigues, and in the same year, Alexander I banished the order from the whole Russian Empire. A similar occurrence took place 4 years later in Modena and Spain. Yet today some men boast of belonging to a secret society, the members of which were declared by an act of George III felons and liable to transportation for life. Speaking of Masons, in 1876, Richard Carlisle wrote, "Let them not wait to be disbanded by the legislature as a useless and mischievous association, but let them anticipate the spirit of the coming age. The deluge of mystery has not only overwhelmed Babylon, but Egypt, Greece, Rome, and will, if we do not light up the spirit of revelation in time, most assuredly overthrow this British nation. It is even now in danger, from the dissension of its internal mysteries, of becoming an easy prey to some more barbarously mysterious power. Thus fell Babylon, Egypt, Jerusalem, Greece, Rome, and why not Britain? If Britain retained those seeds of disease and weakness, tell me not that the safety of a country is in its superstition or in its secret and mysterious bands." This warning, however, passed unheeded. During the time that has elapsed between the publication of Carlyle's book and the present day, we see England honeycombed with societies, subversive of law, order, and morals. Numerous are the homes which have become resorts where, today, the shameful orgies of Medmenham are enacted anew. They are the secret haunts of social cliques and associations. Oh, I'm so sorry. They are the secret haunts and social cliques and associations, and behind such screens as art, antiques, and dressmaking thrive, as though they were highly protected, the white slave traffic, the dope traffic, and gambling, which serve as a dragnet and decoy for the service of the great God plan. There you have it. It hasn't changed a bit, and this book is like, about 100, almost 100 years old. Imagine that. All right, I'm going to call it a day. That was chapter 28. Next time we'll read chapter 29, and it's going to be a good one, I think. General Peepee and the Big Union. Bye. Have a good day.